David Thomas. On your left, Alex Gonzalez. Rug versus Bug, the 3-letter acronym mirror match. I'm Gavin Verhey, joined here by Magic Luminary Zach Hall, and we're about to go into the finals of the Legacy Open. Only one more match left to be played here in the Kansas City Open Series, and this is it. This is my last match. After this, I retire from StarCityGames.com completely.
We'll be seeing Sayonara working at Wizards. You'll see the cards that Gavin designs maybe a year and a half from now.
Yeah, about a year, yeah.
I'm sure he'll be telling us about them. I'm sure he'll have an article on the mothership by then.
I would certainly like to. Or I'd have to also get rehired. So that's my first step. Both players mulliganing to 6. So going to go down on cards. I think that favors the Him to Turok player a little bit.
Oh, of course, yeah. Him to Turok on a mull to 6, or heaven forbid a mull to 5, is just brutal.
Yeah, oh man, whenever your opponent mulligans to 5 and you blow a him on them, just what are you supposed to do about that?
Right.
You just take your lands or something?
Yeah, especially in a deck with as few lands as David Thomas is. If Alex Gonzalez can hit those lands, he might not have many left.
Although I guess with him, right, it gives you a lower chance of hitting lands with you less lands in your deck, right? That's how it works.
I guess so.
I don't think so. No, seriously though, him to Turok hitting any of David Thomas's lands, absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I mean, David Thomas runs such an intricate little machine here, often using every card in his hand on the way to victory, eking out the last points with his creatures. Him to Turok just being a simple 2-for-1, very powerful.
Just a 2-for-1 random cards.
Sure.
That card is brutality.
It is. So they're laying out their opening hands now, and we'll see if they find these a little better.
All right. See if these 6 cards are better for him. Not sure who's on the play.
Both players not sure, it looks like, but both keep.
Both keep. Alonze.
David Thomas on the play leads with Volcanic Island and says go. Stifle at the ready.
Yeah, Volcanic Island hanging back. If Alex Gonzalez leads on a Crackland or Wasteland,
that would be good.
That Stifle could be a big blowout. We're going to quiet down a little bit just because nobody much in the room. Don't know if they can hear us over there. It's a long ways away, but had trouble with that in the past, so hopefully you can still hear our sultry voices.
So Alex Gonzalez debating between a mana-producing land and a Wasteland.
Okay,
Wasteland go.
Wasteland.
Perhaps playing around the Stifles in David Thomas's deck. He has the full set.
I mean, wisely so. He knows David has the full set there.
Alex draws a Brainstorm. Underground Sea and Trop lays the Underground and goes for a Bob. Taps out, not afraid of days. Says, if you have it, you have it.
Man, no fear. Dark Confidant down, but there's a lightning bolt to fight the Dark Confidant.
Yep. Unearth, though, in Alex Gonzalez's hand, he will be able to return that Bob if he wants to for only 1 mana.
Yeah, another neat application. Kill my Bob, sure, bring it back.
8 Bobs. No, sorry, 6 Bobs.
Yeah, it's a lot of Bobs. Alright, so David Thomas cracks Misty Rainforest, and here comes Tropical Island. So, mana base now, Tropical Island, 2 Volcanic Island, those beautiful old dual lands scattering the landscape there.
Yep, and fully almost 1/4 of David Thomas's lands you see there between the graveyard and in play. So not many left. Lays Tarmogoyf still holding up Stifle mana. Does not want to see his green source wastelanded here. He just has had no more.
Alright, Alex's hand looks pretty juiced. I see not only Unearth to get back that Confidant, but 2 Brainstorms and a Jace.
I think of him as well.
Oh my, and no fetch lands to get blown up by that Stifle either. Alright, so there's a Tropical Island.
And Unearth.
Unearth on Dark Confidant.
Can't stifle that, David Thomas.
You can stifle Dark Confidant's trigger if you're looking for a 1-turn reprieve, but that's about it.
Sure.
Personally, I'm not a big fan of cards like Stifle. They're kind of the cards that you always need to find these tricky little uses for, but are seldom actually good. But I've said that about every match I've seen David Thomas play so far. Stifle's never been good at any of them, and yet he's still here in the finals. So perhaps he's been doing a lot of work with those Stifles off camera. We'll see if it works out well for him here.
Interesting that David Thomas chooses not to dismember that Bob on the inside.
Yeah, I would have definitely dismembered there.
He decides he wants to see what he can find with this Ponder before he does that.
Yeah, look a little into the future.
Wasteland, a Trop, and a 3rd card. Considering these, chooses to put the Trop on the bottom. Doesn't need that one. And draws the card.
Alright, good old Ponder.
Looks like it was a Wasteland. Maybe looking to constrain Alex's mana.
That's certainly one way to fight, although if that Dark Confidant stays around, yeah, okay, he dismembers. I was going to say you have to dismember here. Although I'm still surprised David Thomas didn't go for it end step. It's not like Alex has access to days.
No days in the deck. So David Thomas drops to 15 from that dismember.
And things are just going to resolve. Yep, which it does.
Bites it. Now we'll see a Wasteland. We'll see if he wants to cut off green or black mana here.
I'd probably cut off the green.
We will see. Green lets Alex Gonzalez block Tarmogoyf with his own, but black lets him kill it with removal spells, so...
Alright, David Thomas cuts off the Underground Sea.
Okay.
Does opt to go for the black. Doesn't want Tarmogoyf going anywhere.
And okay, so end step Brainstorm.
I'm not sure I like that Brainstorm at all.
No, but he does need to dig for some lands here. Finds a Riptide Lab.
And not really the land he's looking for.
Not at all. That doesn't help him cast any of those spells.
Now he's going to have to put 2 cards back on top.
And draw one of them.
Draw one of them. And he's going to be pretty far in the hole.
Have to imagine one of the hymns will go on the bottom since he has 2.
And he can't cast either of them. Isn't even close to casting either of them.
Right now, at this point, you think he has to Brainstorm again?
I suppose. I see a Snapcaster Mage of David Thomas's hand, too.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure he still has Stifle. I thought he did.
Yep, Snapcaster Stifle is David Thomas's hand right now.
Yep, so Alex just plays Riptide Lab passes.
Ooh, Spell Snare, very good against the bug deck.
Yeah, so once again, this is this tempo thing. David has Tarmogoyf down, just going to hold on to his tempo cards, wait for Alex to make a move, counter them, just keep bashing.
Right.
It's the old Mystic Snake game.
Not going to allow Alex many draw phases to draw back into this.
Alex, thinking about end-step Brainstorm, chooses not to, just draws the second card off the top. He already knew what that one was. It was a Hymn to Turek.
Yeah, he does cast his second Brainstorm. And it resolves.
Yep, resolves.
And
draws 3.
There are 2 fetch lands and another Trop. Very important for Alex Gonzalez here.
Let's see, hand, Jace, Brainstorm, Hymn to Turok.
2 hymns, I believe.
Yeah.
1 hymn has to go back here. Just not going to have time to leverage that other hymn, I don't think. But looking at 2 lands.
Yeah, I mean, he really needed those lands,
Yeah,
too.
that would really surprise me. So Alex puts back 2. Yeah, it looks like he put back both fetch lands. And still no black mana.
Looks like David Thomas cut him off the right color.
Yep. So now David Thomas thinking if he wants to play Snapcaster Mage on the Lightning Bolt, doesn't seem like a bad play at this point.
Just to get him.
Right, get 2 extra power on the board, deal 3 damage.
It's worth 5. We'll put Alex to like, what, 2, 3, or 4, somewhere in there?
Somewhere in that range,
depending on
yeah.
how big that Tarmogoyf is.
So David Thomas with his 4th land, cracks in with the Goyf, and ships the turn, patient with his Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, we've seen so much restraint for David Thomas in our matches. I love the way he plays. He's been playing great.
So Alex might try and resolve a Jace the Mind Sculptor here.
It might be his only chance is to play Jace and bounce that Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, he really needs a little momentary reprieve from that.
And David says, all right,
Yeah,
molto bene.
All the situational cards in the world do not deal with Jace. Stifle. Counters the Jace activation.
Crazy. Who would have thought back in Scourge when they printed that card? No idea they'd be doing that one day.
And at the end of turn, Snapcaster Mage will definitely be targeting this Lightning Bolt, putting Alex dead on board. David knows that Alex can only really have Ghastly Demise here.
Man, that Stifle was brutal. So Alex is cracking land. Is that Unearth?
Yeah, it looks like he's attempting to unearth the Dark Confidant. This will change David Thomas's play a little bit. He'll have to burn the Confidant and attack Jace with the 2/1, Alex with the Tarmogoyf, but in the end doesn't look like it's going to change a lot.
How big are the Tarmogoyfs?
I am not sure. I think maybe
that actually depends quite a bit. I mean, instant,
4 power, I believe.
sorcery, creature, land. I think that's an instant sorcery creature land.
Yeah, 4 power.
Alex sitting at 7. Yeah. All right, so back comes Dark Confidant. And David Thomas is going to go for End Step Snap Caster Mage on that Lightning Bolt.
Yep.
Gets Lightning Bolt, kills off Dark Confidant.
Yeah,
and Alex Gonzalez just concedes.
Not quite dead, but
I think he had one more
drawing
turn there,
dead.
but yeah, I don't know what he could possibly draw. Making sure that doesn't just play it to play it.
Right. David Thomas, 1 game away from being Star City Open Kansas City Legacy champion. Alex Gonzalez not going to go without a fight, though.
Yeah, certainly. Well, before we get into the sideboard details, this is one of the most exciting times. We've got a whole year of StarCityGames.com Premium to give away. This is big. We've given away a year already in the Standard Open. Now it's time to do it again. And here's how it works for everyone out there looking to win Premium, which is probably a lot of you. This is how it works. I'm going to ask you guys a question. On Twitter, you guys are going to respond to the question using the hashtag SCG Premium. You can put in @SCG Live, which is great to follow us if you don't already, but that's the thing you have to have in there to be entered in the contest is hashtag SCG Premium.
Right.
We'll select one person at random who answers the question correctly, and that person will win a whole year at the end of the match.
Just make sure you get your answer in before this match is concluded.
Yeah. If you're watching this at home in the archives, I do not recommend sending us in either. Only if you're watching live will this actually work. Here's the question. Top 8 featured Alex Bertoncini. He's been on a bit of a dry spell recently, been about a month and a half or so since his last top 8. He normally, or not normally, but he's been switching around legacy decks trying to find where he fits.
Right.
He used to play Merfolk a lot. What deck did he top 8 with this weekend, though? He lost out in the quarterfinals, but level 8 ringer StarCityGames.com constant player Alex Bertoncini, what deck was he playing?
Right, and if you're not sure, you can always check back in the coverage. We did feature him for 2 matches, I believe.
Yeah. There's quite a bit in there. If you've been watching for a while, you should already know the answer. You can check out the coverage, of course, on StarCityGames.com. All kinds of text coverage and deck text for Standard and Legacy. If you're watching us right now, there's a pretty good chance that you're on StarCityGames.com and the coverage page already. So just scroll down a little bit, open some links.
Find Alex Gonzalez, or rather, find Alex Bertoncini's deck and tweet it in.
Tweet it in. So you too could win a year Star City Games Premium, read some of the best articles on the net. You're going to want to check that out. In the meantime, though, we've got a final match to play, and David Thomas, who has the momentum behind him, is up a game. This guy, he's just rolling through these tournaments.
Yep, just methodically, robotically rolling through, taking each match that we feature him in, except one, I suppose.
Yeah, he's like a
against
dollar.
Jerry T.
So let's see. We have in a sideboard 3 Croson Grips, 3 Spell Pierce, 2 Pyroblast, a Reb, a Sylvan Library, 3 Surgical Extractions, and 2 Submerge. What do you expect to see come in here, Zach?
Well, it seems like David Thomas's route to victory in most of these games has been Tarmogoyf. He's been riding those a lot, so I expect him to side in cards that help him back that up, because I think going long, Alex Gonzalez definitely has the advantage with 3 Jace and just a more powerful creature suite as well as discard suite. Now, David's creatures hit harder, but Alex's creatures have more utility, can draw more cards in the form of Dark Confidant. So David's the aggressor here. So I definitely expect the Pyroblast and Reb to come in, at least in maybe like 1 or 2, to help fight the crucial counter wars. Maybe the Submerges as well.
I mean, Submerge is excellent, I've found, in these matchups. I mean, if you can get it off for free, which isn't too difficult, although I suppose there are only 2 tropical islands and 2 bayous in Alex Gonzalez's deck, but still he's going to get one.
Is going to have one in play.
It's just almost like a free removal spell, because he's going to play something, crack a fetch line at some point, you just put it on top of their library.
Exactly, gets shuffled back in. Sure, he can draw it, but does its job.
And that is excellent right there. Very multi-bene.
Right.
Now, what do you think he's going to take out here?
Taking out, well, of course, the Temporal Spring, perennial sideline all-star, but
Temporal Spring makes me laugh. If David wins this turn with Temporal Spring in his deck, I'm not going to want to, I don't know what I'm going to say.
No, but in terms of the other cards, I mean, Force of Will is a card that's really weak against Hymn to Torok. If there's any matchup where Force of Will, where you want to keep it in against a Hymn deck, it's this one, but I imagine David will take those out, at least in some number.
Yeah, I also think that Force is not too impressive. Granted, you don't want to get himmed out, but if Alex is fighting you with Hymn to Turoks and Thoughtseizes, the last thing you want is just to be 2 for winning yourself on top of all that.
If it's draw go on empty hands, Force of Will is one of the worst cards you can pluck, because all the Wastelands also make it unlikely you're on 5 mana to hardcast it. I expect David to have 1, maybe 2 after board. maybe even 0.
Yeah, I would just cut all my forces, to be honest with you.
I think I would too.
Just don't want them around.
I mean, if they're casting him to Torok on you and you Force of Will it, well, it's sort of the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's like, okay, I picked the cards. I mean, you just rush-minded me. Still bad news. How about Alex Gonzalez? We see 4 Pernicious Steeds, 3 Surgical Extractions, 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Croson Grips, a Medallion Click, a Thoughtseize, a Loam, and a Ghastly Demise. What do you expect for him to bring in?
Well, Alex's plan here is just going to be to stay alive with the Ghastly Demise, maybe even the Pernicious Deeds. We might see those make an appearance, though I don't think so. Probably Ghastly Demise, Life from the Loam, Vendilion Click. As it is, I think Alex's deck is pretty well set up to fight David's already. Could see the Spell Pierces, depending on what he has to take out. In terms of what he's cutting, not really sure here. His deck's a tight little package. What do you think?
I think I would expect him to cut his forces too. I mean, I think if he presumes, it depends on what level he's on, but I think if he presumes David's going to cut his forces, he doesn't need his forces to protect his spells anymore.
Right.
And I don't think Force is really that impressive in this matchup. I mean, the cards are going to counter. Like, he doesn't even have any Jaces to counter. I mean, you're going to counter Tarmogoyf, which is like the best card you can counter,
right.
I think.
Delver of Secrets. It's not a card you want to be spending 2 cards on. You'd way rather just spend 1 mana Ghastly Demise, kill it, or even 4 mana Pernicious Deed, kill it, or 3 if it's flipped.
Yeah, I think Force of Will is just one of the most overrated cards in Legacy. It's almost like a Sacred Cow. Players are scared to cut it, but often it's so right to reduce your numbers. We've even seen people like Jerry Thompson and AJ Soccer consistently going down to 3 copies.
Right, in the main deck.
In the main deck, yeah. I'm boarding the Force for the combo matchups, because that's when you really need it. Once again, I mentioned this earlier today, but in Modern, we kind of saw what Legacy would be like if you didn't have Force holding it together. Force makes sure that the deck format's just not dominated by degenerate combos.
Exactly.
So you have to have those Forces to deal with those combo decks, but when you're not facing combo, often Force is not what you want to have around.
Exactly. Without Force of Will in the format, you'd see decks like Goblin Charbelcher and Storm just take every tournament by storm. So yeah, I expect both players to board out Force of Wills here, but we will see. If anyone's going to have them, it's going to be Alex Gonzalez.
Yeah, David Thomas definitely does not want them.
Yep. So it looks like both players keep.
All right, they're on their 7s.
Well, actually, Alex is keeping.
No, Alex keeps. That's right. David, once again, very methodical. Lays down his hand, waits to see what his opponent does. Wants to gather as much information as possible from his opponent's facial reactions, and with not give away any of his own either.
David considering the hand for what could be the final game of this tournament.
Right. He knows if he wins this one, it's all his. The trophy, the prize, the money, the glory. And I think he's going to throw it back. Yep, back to 6 cards. David Thomas knows he cannot take a risk. We've seen a lot of players this weekend lose to mulligans. David is not a player we've seen do that. He has been very careful.
Right. Every player we've seen keep a 1-land hand has lost, I believe. Every 1-land hand on the play.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we saw it in Standard Open multiple times.
Yeah, and there's also one in your lunch round this tournament where someone kept a 1-land hand on the play and just missed, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, Legacy decks don't play a lot of lands.
Exactly.
David Thomas only playing 18, we said, right?
Yeah.
Alex Gonzalez with much more, but didn't save him the first game.
Now, usually the rug decks in this vein don't play many lands, but, especially late game, it's very good because their odds of drawing an action spell much higher, but early game, it can almost be their Achilles heel. Very vulnerable to Wasteland and things like Stifle. Hymn to Torok as well, of course.
Right. Looks like David's picking up his 6 cards. And let's see if these are any better for him. Certainly does not want to go down to 5 against the Hymn to Torok deck.
No, never
especially
good.
when Alex kept his hand so quickly.
Again, you can't tell anything from David Thomas's face. He's happy for it. No, not happy with it.
No, that is bad news for Davis Thomas.
On 5 cards.
On 5 cards against the Hymn to Torok Thoughtseize deck.
Right, on the draw. So if Alex Gonzalez has a discard-heavy hand, that'll be good. But even so, tough to win against him on 5.
Yeah, I would not expect I would not expect David to win this game. I think we might be going to Game 3. Obviously, a lot of things can happen. Maybe Alex kept a sketcher, David Thomas. David Thomas gets a really good 5-card hand or something. But David is definitely under pressure to win this game. I mean, he would really like to just close out this match, but the 5-card hand I don't think will do it.
Definitely. Even if he is forced to go to a Game 3, he will be on the play.
But yeah, and being on the play when your opponent has him in their deck is such a huge advantage too. You really don't want to get hemmed out.
Right, big swings. Him way less impressive on the draw.
Right.
And he'll deal out his 5. See if they're any better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Any good, David Thomas? Better be.
Going to 4 against a him to Torque deck, not recommended. But he keeps.
We don't recommend trying that one at home. Yeah. All right, Alex Gonzalez. Here we go. Turn 1, Underground C.
Included Delta Underground C, one of the most common plays in Legacy.
Yep. And shifts the turn back. Is that a surgical extraction? That is in David Thomas's hand.
Interesting. Wow. On Underground C.
So I think David decided the only way he can win is if he got his opponent's lands. Unfortunately, that's not what happened for him. But there's certainly that strategy where it's like, well, I'm probably not going to be able to win this game. Maybe I'll have a shot if I mana screw him. I don't know why that surgical extraction is in there in the first place.
Well, he does have 2 Unearth, but...
That seems like a pretty weak reason.
Right, that's really it. Aside from Snapcaster Mage, of course. So it does have some value, but it just doesn't feel like that's what David Thomas wants to be doing right now in this matchup.
Especially he's on the draw this game, too. I remember a story about Irvin Tormos. He had kind of a sketchy hand, and he just Pithy Needled his opponent's Flooded Strand.
Oh.
And his opponent had 3 Flooded Strands in their hand. And locked him out of the game.
Sometimes that does it. I mean, sometimes you have to go for the route of mana screwing your opponent. Sometimes that's your only way to win. David Thomas thought it was, but does not hit any more Underground Seas.
Yeah.
And searches up the Bayou. Now, interesting to note, Alex Gonzalez's only sources of black now are Bayou, only sources of blue, Tropical Island, 2 of each. So if David Thomas can somehow waste either both Bayous or both Trops, it'll cut him off. But already used 1 Wasteland.
All right. Finishes the turn. Passes back to David Thomas.
Oh, and there's
a Wasteland on a Bayou.
Now, if you're Alex Gonzalez, you have to be a little scared here of a 3rd Wasteland.
I mean, what kind of maniac is David Thomas? Just what kind of guy is like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to destroy all your lands. Right. What a weird strategy for David Thomas to utilize. I don't think he drew it up this way, but as an opportunist, he remembered what was in Alex's deck list.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Alex Gonzalez, I think the reason he hasn't cracked that fetch yet is because of that Wasteland, but he decides 2 Wastelands, already used, 3rd very unlikely, and luckily for him, David Thomas doesn't have it.
All right, so Alex casts Thoughtseize, sees a hand of Spell Pierce, Delver of Secrets.
And I'm not sure what that 3rd card is.
It's black. Is that Dismember? I think it's probably Dismember.
Probably
I see the reminder text at the start with the Phyrexian mana hit.
Yep, that's a Dismember.
Yeah.
So, looks like Alex has a Jace, a Hymn, and a Go for the Throat, as well as a Pernicious Deed and a Bob. No second land.
Named Bolt. Wait, what?
Not sure what that was, but he does take the Delver of Secrets.
Sorry, we got a message that was he named Bolt. I don't understand what that message was supposed to mean. Never mind. Now it says.
So David Thomas drawing another surgical extraction. Be interesting to see what he targets, what he saves this for, or if he blows it right now. Now, if he had that when the Bayou hit the graveyard, that would have been very impressive, but draws a turn too late here.
All right, Alex Gonzalez draws for his turn. And another surgical extraction on Bayou. Or on, what was he targeting?
It might be Thoughtseize. Definitely won't be Bayou because both
Yeah, you know there are only 2 Bayous.
Yep. So,
Evoluted
Delta.
What in the world?
Very interesting. David Thomas must have known that Alex had no more land from knowing his hand.
Just cut him off of his mana?
Yeah, and you can see Alex there laughing.
If David Thomas wins this game, he is going to be a mad genius. I can't tell if he's insane or clever or both.
Sculpt a crazy game plan based around 2 surgical extractions here. Getting rid of lands, not a play you see too often.
Hey, I guess if you use Mana Screw Alex Gonzalez,
yep,
might be able to get somewhere.
And as he looks through Alex's deck, he realizes there aren't too many lands left for him to draw. The only mana-producing lands left in his deck are 2 Tropical Island, a Riptide Lab, and Wastelands. So not many left. That Jace in his hand.
Andrew Mantha asks if Gonzalez has enough mana sources left to cast Jace without loaming. I think he does.
Yeah, he has Wastelands.
He has Wastelands, and he has 2 Tropical Islands, right?
Right, he'll have to have both Tropical Islands in play to do
that's
so.
That's only blue sources.
Right. No more black sources, so those hymns are actually dead cards right now. Unless he draws a loam. of which he only has one.
This is actually absurd. All right, everyone at home, what's your opinion? David Thomas, psycho or genius? I want to know.
Be interesting to see the split here.
I've seen a lot of things watching these cameras. I've been to, 12, 13, 14 shows, insane number. I have never seen anything like this.
This will be a crazy last game if David Thomas manages to win on the Mulder 5.
Mulder 5, surgical extraction, your land on turn 2, insane. David Thomas draws 3 cards off a brainstorm that he ripped, trying to find some lands. I mean, still obviously in a very rough position.
Right.
But
both his surgical extractions, while they did take out lands, they did not net him any cards on the exchange.
and Alex drew his loam.
The loam.
David has a spell pierce. All right, so David spell pierces it.
We'll
Passes
see what
back.
he
If his wasteland is on
draws.
the top, it's lightning bolt.
No.
I was gonna say if that was wasteland, that would have been unreal. But Alex dredges life from the loam, and now I think Alex is gonna be able to win. That life from the loam was basically the best card he could draw there.
Yeah, that's going to let him get fetch land, Bayou. He's going to get 2 blue sources for Jace, and once Jace lands, that's going to be just about it.
Yeah, people on Twitter says he is both a psycho and a genius.
Could be both.
Yeah, entwine on that one.
That mad genius. Landy needs to make a comeback. Maybe not in Legacy.
If he wins, a genius. Yeah, it doesn't look like it now, though. That life from the loam.
Yeah, that's just a beating. Unfortunately for David, Alex drew the life from the loam. Only 1 in the deck.
And what's happening right now?
I think he's choosing what to target. Eventually decides on only 2 fetches.
Not the Bayou.
He would probably just have to discard it, maybe.
No, I don't think it has that many cards in his hand.
That's weird. Tarmogoyf, off the top.
All right. Tarmogoyf for David Thomas. Okay, now I think Alex Gonzalez will be able to build back up toward whatever he's going for.
Definitely. He'll be able to land a Jace here if he so chooses. Bouncing Tarmogoyf. But if he has a removal spell, I imagine we'll see him use that first.
Yeah, I think he has Go for the Throat in his hand.
Yep, I think so.
I think we're about to see the third of that Tarmogoyf gone. Unless he chooses to just Jace bounce, which is not a reasonable.
Yeah, it would be a little dangerous because
and David Thomas concedes. Man, great gambit by David Thomas there. I got to tell you.
Very interesting.
That was unbelievable.
You don't see surgical extraction targeting Underground Sea very often.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't understand why those extractions were in there, but he didn't make the most of them. It's like one of those situations where I accidentally left these in. Well, I guess I'll do as much as I can.
Right. Almost like the Narcomoeba beatdown that we saw in the semis.
Yeah, wow.
You don't plan to draw them, but when you do...
Time to go for the fences.
Exactly.
So we're going to go ahead and do game 3 here. David Thomas on the play. I still like Alex Gonzalez' deck in this matchup, but man, is David Thomas just playing tight? The momentum is in his favor?
Tight or crazy, one of the two. Now, it's interesting that David Thomas not going back to his sideboard, so Alex has full knowledge that he will be facing down the extractions for game 3. If I was David, I would at least pretend to side in and out some cards, make Alex think a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think you have surgical extraction, for example. Got to play around that.
Right.
Maybe he thinks, you make him think that you're taking them out, or you just take them out.
Exactly.
Oh, man, but that was an insane game. David Thomas played that so well.
Players getting a kick out of it, too. They're both laughing here after that crazy game.
I mean, if you're just joining us, that was absurd. So David Thomas mulliganed to 5 against Alex Gonzalez' deck. He brought surgical extraction. I don't really know why. I still don't think it's the right card to bring in this matchup. But regardless, he just started targeting Alex's lands. He's like, it was a turn 2. All right, surgical extraction, your Underground Seas. Ripped out all of his blue and black Underground Sea lands, and then he had another surgical extraction on Pluto Delta, and Alex Gonzalez and him were just in a top deck war for a long time, and Alex had no lands. David was, had nothing going on, but then Alex, of course, drew his one of life from him.
Yeah, and that was pretty much it right there. But interesting play by David Thomas trying to deny his opponent all of his Underground Seas, because for Underground Sea, 2 Bayou, 2 Verdant Catacombs, the only mana-producing lands in Alex's deck, only colored mana-producing lands in Alex's deck. So trying to deny them, a valid strategy, but it didn't work that game.
No, pretty insane though. I got to put my hat to David Thomas for thinking of even doing that.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Surgical Extraction, not the card you want here, but
I don't understand why you would bring those in this matchup. I mean, maybe it's because he casts Unearth, but you've even seen each other's deck list. You know he only has 2 Unearths, and even then, it's not that high impact of a card.
right.
You know, like even if you hit, even if he Unearthed and it resolves, I mean, yeah, he gets a Dark Confidant back, which is good, but you boarded in Surgical Extractions just for that.
Yeah, I mean, some players think it's good on Twitter, some players think it's bad. One player, Wyatt, says he mulled himself to 3, was never in a position to win. I mean, part of that does ring true. The Surgical Extractions didn't hit any cards from Alex Gonzalez's hand, but almost mana screwed him enough so that he couldn't cast any spells. Which, maybe you won't hit any cards from his hand, but if you can eliminate, say, all his black lands or all his green lands or all his blue lands, that'll do it sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't think any player switched up their sideboards for the third game.
Yeah, I don't think so. And a lot of players think that the Surgical Extraction is good, but just really not the card for the matchup. Yeah, it can sort of counter a Snapcaster Mage, half of a Snapcaster Mage, but it's such a narrow use, especially from the player who wants to be the aggressor, who can't afford to have a dead card in his hand.
Yeah, Alex Gonzalez looking to add another trophy to his resume. I was actually there when he won his last Open Series in Louisville, Kentucky. It was a Standard Open. He won with Cobblade, of course.
Oh, very nice.
But that was a Standard Open, looking to get a Legacy Open trophy too.
So David Thomas opens on Delver of Secrets. Definitely the best turn 1 for him. A card he wants, and he'd love to flip that on turn 2, get a 3-power flyer attacking.
All right, and there's Underground Sea from Alex Gonzalez.
We'll see what he has. Might be Thoughtseize here.
Okay, and David Thomas is going to brainstorm in response to hide some cards.
No.
Assuming that he actually goes for Thoughtseize.
It looks like this is actually upkeep. Alex Gonzalez fetching during his own turn to play around Stifle, it looks like.
Okay, and then David Thomas going for brainstorm and upkeep to flip the Delver. Alex Gonzalez chooses to Spell Pierce that. No hit on the Delver, still just a 1/1.
Right, Alex gets rewarded for the Spell Pierce play by only facing down a 1/1 right now.
Yep, and Alex drops down to 18 life. Passes back.
Alex draws a Thoughtseize, so now he'll both be able to play Thoughtseize and play around Daze, if he so chooses.
And there's Tropical Island for Alex Gonzalez.
And I have to imagine he will, overplaying a 2-drop. He has to at least respect the possibility of Daze. Not under a lot of pressure, but no, he chooses the Bob.
And Dark Confidant comes down.
And it resolves. So a risky play, but it paid off for him as it resolved.
Yeah, Dark Confidant going to generate so much advantage for Alex Gonzalez, assuming David Thomas doesn't have a bolt here. I'm not quite sure what's in his hand.
Yep, playing it close to the chest.
Let's see.
And if he can flip an instant here, that'll be huge. Let him put a clock on.
If David goes like Bolt, you're confident, untap, hit an instant or sorcery, he's going to be a really good spot. I think he even has the Bolt, though.
Oh, Dismember. Just as good.
Okay. Yep, Dismembers the Dark Confidant.
Dead Confidant.
Takes 4 to do that. Drops to 15 life. Untap, let's see if he hits. Do-do-do.
Bam.
And Spell Snare.
Spell Snare, one of his best cards against Alex Gonzalez. All his important spells are 2.
And now the Insectile Aberration.
Yep, is going to come in for 3.
Yep, Alex Gonzalez down to 15. And we have seen those Delvers / Aberrations do great work for David Thomas all day long. Just he flips them and then just rides the tempo game to victory.
3/3/3. Before you know it, you are dead.
Thoughtseize for Alex Gonzalez, going to try and take some of that tempo away from David Thomas by snatching a card that he thinks is going to pertain to the game state.
Now, David Thomas does have a Snapcaster, so he could flash back the Brainstorm if he wants to. It looks like that's precisely the play he's going for.
Yep, there's the Snapcaster.
Will both get a 2-power creature on the board and protect his hand. And all of a sudden, Alex Gonzalez is going to be at 13 life, facing down 5 power.
Wow, yeah, David Thomas just assembling a not literal storm, but a storm of cards that will defeat Alex Gonzalez.
Yeah, and again, the turn 1 Delver, very key for David Thomas.
Yeah, we've seen that be good for him all day. I think a lot of players were knocking the Delver, myself included. I was not a big fan, but after seeing it in action in the hands of David Thomas today, I think I've switched my side on that one. And he sees hand of a loam and 2 lands. I think I'll make you discard your life from the loam. Thank you very much.
Thankfully for Alex Gonzalez, no wastelands.
Yet.
They could be hiding on the top of his deck, though.
I doubt it. I'm sure. I think David just hid 2 spells.
So we'll see what Alex Gonzalez has. A third land.
There's Misty Rainforest for Alex Gonzalez.
So he has a Tarmogoyf, a Brainstorm, and a Hymn, I believe. Can't imagine it's anything but the Tarmogoyf, and that's what he plays.
Yeah, so Tarmogoyf comes down. That'll at least block the Snapcaster Mage.
Stem the bleeding.
But still, 3 points coming in off that Insectile Aberration. That'll drop Alex Gonzalez down to 9. That fetch land crack puts Alex on a perfect 4-turn clock.
Yeah, he really is going to need to find a removal spell with that Brainstorm.
Alright, let's see what's on top of David's deck. Untap, or maybe he doesn't want the cards. Maybe he's just going to dredge loam. Nope, he definitely wants it.
That Spell Snare that he hid.
Alright, so he hid that snare, and in comes Insectile Aberration, dropping Alex Gonzalez down to 9 life.
And he only has 3 more turns. Gonzalez untaps, draws, I believe, another land.
David Thomas puts that Brainstorm into exile. He did flashback it after all. Doesn't go back into your graveyard, it turns out.
No, that would be nice. And Alex Gonzalez tries for the Brainstorm.
I think it's going to resolve, right?
I don't believe David Thomas has anything to stop it, only a Spell Snare.
Alright, draws 1, 2, and 3. Land, and land. Triple land for Alex Gonzalez. Not what he was looking for by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, sort of see his hand slump there. Really needed a removal spell, but luckily he has a fetch land.
Yeah, he did find a fetch, so he can crack that and shuffle stuff away.
Yep.
He also can get a second black source for him if that's what he wants to do.
Right, that'll be the Spell Snare, but it will get the only spell out of David Thomas's hand. And he'll crack that fetch.
Yeah, right away.
Actually, if you're David Thomas, you probably don't use the Spell Snare here if you have 3 cards in hand.
Joshua J on Twitter says the life totals are wrong, and David Thomas should be at 15. Alex Gonzalez should be at +4. That's right, David Thomas did use a Dismember, but apparently maybe it's subtracted from the wrong side. That would drastically change the game. I think Alex Gonzalez's life total is correct, though. David going to Spell Snare, that him to Turok.
Sure. Did its job, though. David Thomas only left with a land in hand.
Yep, and whatever's hiding on top of his deck. Oh, and he's going to crack it. Does not want the card on top of his library. Going to shuffle it away.
Draw a random one instead. And Alex Gonzalez looks like he'll have 2 draw phases to find a kill spell. Otherwise, David Thomas will take this one and the tournament.
And if David Thomas finds the answer to that Tarmogoyf, it could be over even quicker. Although I think he's running a little low on answers to Tarmogoyf.
Right.
If he has that Temporal Spring, let me tell you. I'd love to see that end it. C-Meyer says on Twitter that David always seems to have the lands even though he only plays 18. I can't help but agree with you there. I find it amazing that David's playing only 18 lands and always has this mini wall as opponents with many more lands keep getting mana screwed.
Brainstorm, one of the best draws in David's deck, lets him see 3 fresh cards.
Oh, one of those is a bolt. That'll cut the amount of turns Alex Gonzalez gets.
Wow. So Alex Gonzalez all of a sudden down to 1 draw phase, though he doesn't know it. And also another thing to note, even though David does only have 18 land, he has 4 Ponder, 4 Brainstorm, which, though they're not lands, they can help dig for lands when he needs them and spells when he doesn't. Sort of like virtual lands there. First pioneered by Alan Comer.
Yes, of course, the cantrip strategy. Of course, a lot of decks in Legacy play a lot of cantrips, so David isn't alone in that. But all right, David finishes resolving his Brainstorm.
Oh, that's a Delver.
Oh
wow.
Man, he's gonna be able to play it, flip it next turn, and I think that's lethal, right? He's got Lightning Bolt at the top of his deck, probably.
Alex needs a deed right now.
Oh man, this might be it. He just draws alone.
Life.
That's not gonna do it.
Nope.
I think that's game over.
I think so too. If that is indeed a Lightning Bolt, that will be game.
And it was. There's a red card at the top of David's library. As long as he didn't mess it up, that should be it. I think we're about to congratulate David Thomas. This is insane.
Boom.
Bam, there's the boy, and there's the hand. Congratulations to David Thomas, riding the momentum wave all the way to the championship.
Winning, he could not pull it off yesterday. Lost in the top 4, but triumphed today.
Top 8 in Nashville, top 4 yesterday.